visionary, an entrepreneur, a business owner. You want to make money from your passion and create the freedom that you've dreamed of. But it's slow. The income is slow, the impact is slow, and the freedom is slow. And here's the kicker. You've actually never been busier. You're working longer than ever, burning through daylight, and your family have forgotten who you are. You're tired and frustrated and you can't even sleep well at night. The business just feels so heavy, and all you ever wanted to do was just make the money you want to make doing the things that you want to do. And that's where I come in. Hi, if we haven't met yet, my name is Dr. Storme, and I'm the host of the Business Acceleration Podcast, where we shift your business from heavy to light, time poor to time abundant, and from income lack to income growth. We're going to achieve it together with my 20 years experience as a psychologist, helping people just like you to break through their barriers. And we're going to throw in a little of the woo as well. So thank you so much for pushing play today. Let's begin. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Business Acceleration Podcast. I'm so pleased that you're here today. With these episodes, it's always my intention to help you experience some kind of shift or transformation, and that can even look like planting seeds for you to perhaps think about now, even though you might not be ready for a change or a shift, but that might be valuable or useful to you when you are at the point of wanting and seeking a shift or some kind of change. So welcome to another episode. Last week, for those of you who don't know, I ran my second webinar for 2020, so they happen fortnightly, and it was on imposter syndrome, and it was a lot of fun. I've never had so many people register for a webinar before. I didn't realize it was such an important topic, and there've been lots of contact since then, and so I think we'll end up doing a follow-up webinar based on some of the questions that people had. So it was lots and lots of fun. If you'd like to catch the replay, let me know. Connect with me and I'll send you a link. We have another webinar that's coming up this week actually, and it's all about how to make your first $100,000 as a solo private practice owner or as a coach in solo practice. So you haven't scaled yet, you're not at the scaling point. Perhaps you've just obtained your qualifications and you're looking to start. So if that's something that's interesting to you, again, I'll put the link for that in the notes below. I'd love to have you there because I guess when a lot of us were first starting out, as I've said before, we're qualified in our professions to do our jobs, but perhaps we didn't know so much about the business side of things. So I want to help you out with that. And you can avoid making some of the mistakes that the rest of us made. But I'll move on. Today I am reading a chapter out of my first book that was published last year. It's called Manifesting Made Simple, and we're going to apply it to business. And this chapter is called Buddha on the Mountain. And, you know, as a coach that specializes in manifestation, one of the frustrations I often hear from clients is that it's just not working. But if only they really understood that, you know, law of attraction manifestation is working all the time and that it's impossible for it not to be because it is a natural universal law. What people usually mean is that they aren't manifesting what they want, or they aren't manifesting what they want soon enough. And so there are some reasons for this, so let's discuss them now. And look, I remember when I first began learning about law of attraction, how quickly obsessed I became. It seemed that every spare moment in the day was happily spent devouring any and every resource on the topic that was available. In seemingly no time at all, it became apparent to me that to create my own reality more consciously and intentionally, some work was going to be involved, and there was no magic wand in sight. In fact, part of manifesting is the actual practice, and we've discussed this in previous episodes before. You know, it's manifestation practice, and that means you need to do things every single day, and that's why sometimes you'll hear people talking about a morning routine or an evening routine. Routines just seem to be an easier way for people to incorporate more intentionally some of the things that they need to if they're going to be manifesting. And it's a huge part of things. So practice doesn't really mean that you need a whole lot of things for a whole lot of time every single day. It really just means that, like with anything, you need to give it time and attention on a regular basis. So during my initiation into the field of manifestation, there were many different things that I tried before I found the processes that were the best fit for me. So what I do now is I use my travel time to work each morning to work on manifesting. Yep, that's it. If you've listened to these podcasts before, you know that I hop in the car, grab a coffee on the way to work. I'm going to say blessed, but some of you are going to be very upset when I say that, because where I live, I think I'm just in the perfect location, because I'm a 5-minute walk down to the coast. At the end of my street, there's like these beautiful mangroves. There's not one, but 2 marinas with these beautiful big yachts. And, people go out there every day and they're washing their yachts, or they're sailing around the bay in and out of Western Port. There's big pelicans everywhere. Seagulls love to live in my backyard. And where my house is positioned, I have the police literally at the end of my street. There's a Kentucky Fried Chicken at the end of my street, a Red Rooster, a McDonald's, an Aldi and Woolies and a Coles are within maybe 2 blocks of my house. I'm spoilt for choice. There's a fire brigade is 1 block away. The ambulance is 1 block away. I mean, it is really like, I'm just so blessed. I never thought that I'd end up living in Western Port. I found the house and I fell in love with the house online, and they hadn't put the address. I just put a general location, and the general location was Mornington Peninsula. And when I inquired with the real estate agent about where my house was and I got the address, I had no idea where my street was, and I Google mapped it and I came down here and I thought, oh, I'm in Western Port, okay. But anyway, I don't know why I went off on that tangent. Sorry about that. So yeah, I get coffee and there's McDonald's at the end of my street, and I've always loved McDonald's coffee, and maybe it's because I've got fond childhood memories of when I was really, really little, and I mean like probably prep or grade 1. I can remember going into Frankston with my mum, and I don't know, I just assume she was probably doing the shopping. And I know that she didn't have all of my siblings, so I'm the eldest of 6, because I can only ever remember my little brother and somebody in a pram, so that must have been my next little sister down. And after she'd done the shopping, she used to take us to McDonald's in Frankston, because they used to have free bottomless coffee if you bought something. So she used to buy my brother and I a little packet of McDonald's cookies so that she could have the percolated coffee. And it was just a nice thing. It became like a little tradition. We'd do that after we'd done the shopping. And so, yeah, I have fond memories of McDonald's coffee because of that. So I have McDonald's at the end of my street, and I go there every single morning to get an almond flat white. But anyway, after I've done that, I put on high vibe music so that my mood is like really happy and bouncy. And when I'm feeling like the moment's right, I turn the music off completely. And then I just start saying out loud all the things that I'm really thankful for. And I usually begin by saying something like, good morning, universe, it's me, Brooklyn. And then I start chatting away about all the awesome things that happened to me the day before or the morning of, and that I'm thankful for right now. So I might say things like, thank you for my hot coffee, thank you for petrol in the car, thank you for the car itself, thank you for my amazing work, thank you for my amazing clients, and things like that. So I say them super quickly, and it's like I can really feel my mood elevating, and I realize I'm smiling. And then right at the end of doing this gratitude rampage, so this is called a gratitude rampage, and you can learn more about it from Esther Hicks. It's actually a tool that she uses to raise her vibration. That's who I learned it from. Then I'll throw my intention in right at the end, and I'll say thank you for that, as well as if it's already happened. So if I'm saying that I want to enroll a new client, so I've just finished enrolling 5 clients into my coaching program. But before I had 5 people enrolled, I was every morning saying, and thank you for the beautiful souls that I get to work with over the next 90 days and help their business grow, and da-da-da-da. So I say it as if it's already happened. And then after I've done that, it only takes a minute or 2, I just put the music back on and enjoy the rest of the ride down to work. The other thing that I do is there are 2 ways that I can get to work from my house, and I take away that is a little bit longer in distance, but it's more beautiful for me to drive down. It gives me more things to be thankful for because it is just amazing. It's a road called Coolart Road, and either side it's lined with these great big Christmas trees. So at the moment all the orange needles from the trees are down on the ground in big clumps and piles. It's really beautiful, and when I'm driving to work the sun is still kind of rising. It's not up fully yet, and so it casts this beautiful golden light on all of the paddocks, and the farmers all have different things. So I get to go past some paddocks with horses, and there is a number of foals that I can see now, and I love watching them try and stand up. I think that's really special. Another farmer has a collection of mountain goats, and so he's put a pile of I guess it's dirt and rocks along the fence line, and it's quite a long fence line, and he's got maybe about 40 or 50 goats that I can see teetering along the little mound, like he's tried to make a little mountain for them, and they all get up there and some of them sit down on it. But now that we've got all the pine needles, some of them have buried into it to make the mountain more like a cave, and they're sitting in that, keeping cool. It's really beautiful. And then all the llama sorry, I was thinking a client of mine has a sticker that we always joke about. It's called a no drama llama, and it's become a bit of a thing. And now when I see the alpacas, I think of the no drama llama, but all the alpacas have just had a haircut as well, and so they look like mini giraffe running around some of the paddocks. And then there's others. I've got chickens up at the front of the fence, and then there's a couple of little farm gates. So some people that they've made little umbrellas and trestle tables, and they put jam out. It's like a little roadside stall. You can get lemons, eggs, tomatoes, bunches of cottage roses and things like that for a few dollars on the honesty system, and I just love it. And these are the things that make me so appreciative of my life. I mean, driving down this road is such a joy for me, and I can see so many things to be thankful for. And that's one way that I get my vibration ready for the day ahead. So anyway, that's the key right there. It doesn't really matter what you're doing each day. The point is that you need to be doing something each day, and it needs to be consistent. And it needs to make you feel really good by raising your vibration, so that you can become a better match for the thing that you're trying to manifest in your business. So maybe you're trying to manifest more clients, for example. Think about it. You know what it's like when you go somewhere new for the first time. Think about the last time you went and saw a different doctor or a different therapist or a different counselor or whatever. And think about yourself from a client perspective, and think about all the steps you had to go through. You had to perhaps get a referral. You had to perhaps Google that person because you wanted to know more about them before you went. You had to try and Google where the place was. You had to think about, what am I going to say to this person when we meet? What is she going to be like, or what's he going to be like? Will I like them? Will they like me? What should I wear when I go down there? Do I have enough money in my account to pay for the appointment? How is it all going to work? What's going to happen in the first meeting? So you're full of all this curiosity, which is very natural. And then imagine or recall, if you can, how you felt when you did meet that doctor for the first time, or that therapist for the first time. Think about your experience. Was it a positive one? Was it a negative one? And you'll be able to understand what I'm saying when I tell you that you pick up on somebody's vibe. I know when I first met my doctor, so I see a doctor in Somerville, and he's amazing. He's an Egyptian doctor. I've been going there for about 18 months now, and the first time I met him, I was thinking, I'm just going to get rushed in, I'm going to get rushed out, I'm going to be waiting there for hours despite having made an appointment, and I was dreading going down. But anyway, so I wasn't really in a great mood when I was down there, plus of course I wasn't well, which wasn't helping. But when he came out and he called my name, he just changed my mood in an instant. He came over to me, smiled at me, put his hand on my shoulder, walked me through, waited until I sat down. He invited me to sit down first, then so I did, and then he sat down, and he, just closed everything. He had a book on like a notebook on his desk, and he closed it and put it aside, and he moved things off his desk that were in between us. And he clasped his hands together and leant on his elbows on the desk, and he was just looking straight at me, and he said, I'm here and I'm listening. How can I help you? And that made me feel like I had his complete attention, and suddenly I felt great. And so that's what I mean. You pick up on a vibration that is being presented to you, but you need to also be aware that you emanate a vibration for others as well. So if I'd gone into that doctor's meeting with my arms crossed in a grumpy mood and not looking at him, and crossing my legs, looking up at the ceiling and being short, that's going to give him a different sense of who I am. Okay, so it took a little while before I realised that what I had created was in fact what everybody else was calling a morning routine. And I only really found out about those kinds of things by reading and studying a lot. So there are other ways that people begin their day to help set them up for a good day. For example, they might stay in bed just after they've woken up, and they take a moment there to be grateful, or they take a couple of moments to do things like visualise a goal or visualise an intention for the day. Now that's really important. That has been amplified by some of the work by Dr. Wayne Dyer. Now, he has written a number of books all about the power of intention. In fact, I think that's the title of one of his books. And if you want to learn more about intention, definitely go and look him up. But some people might listen to music in the shower, or they might make a healthy smoothie. That puts them in a good mood and raises their vibration. They might get up a little bit earlier so that they can journal about how they want the day to go. I do that when I'm down at the practice. But it's your call what you want to do in the morning and in the evening for that matter. But my best guidance to you is to try a few different things and see what you feel most comfortable with and what you would be happy to do every day. And there's something else that can affect your ability to attract clients or attract sales into your business. And it's the little voice inside your head that says, this is ridiculous, this will never work, or something along those lines. Perhaps you've set a goal to call in an amount of money by a certain date, and you are following the advice of not worrying about the how too much, and you are being really mindful of not getting caught up in the hustle, which is what you would have done before you started learning about conscious creation or manifestation. It's difficult in a way, and your mind says things to you like, hey, come on now, if you don't get off your butt and do something, you're not going to make any money. And what ends up happening is a deadline comes, and guess what? There's no money. And then you say, see, I knew this was BS. I'm not going to say what BS means. Somebody asked me that before. It means rubbish, let's just say. What's happened here is that your mind has given more importance to a limiting belief than to your goal. And so the limiting belief has, in fact, one, to prevent this from happening in the future, what you can do is spend time looking at the beliefs that you hold around money or manifestation, for example, and work through them. So you might be able to create a new or updated version of those beliefs and turn them into something that's going to work for you, like even an affirming belief, okay? It's worthwhile spending a moment reflecting on something else when it comes to intention in your business, and that's understanding the law of divine timing, because this can give you peace of mind that you are still on the right path. So this is really, really important. This law generally implies that the universe has received your intention and is set about retrieving it, but it also needs to balance a lot of other things out at the same time in order to deliver for you. So those things need to happen in a certain order that we don't really know about. You only need to trust that it's going to happen, believe that it will, and continue with your practice. And over time, you'll start to see results. Now, this is super important because one of the things that can pop up, and I see it with coaching clients, not all of them, but with some of them, is when they're trying to do something like increase their visibility, they might say, oh, well, like me, they might say, oh, well, I'm going to run webinars and I'm going to increase my visibility like that. And I'm going to grow my email list using webinars. And so they will put blood, sweat and tears into researching webinar content. They'll put blood, sweat and tears into creating a slide deck. They'll spend hours choosing just the right pictures, phrasing their dot points on the slides just the right way, marketing the webinar, doing all of the behind the scenes stuff. I mean, webinars are a lot of work. For somebody to participate, all they need to do is just sign up and presto, you're there and the work's already done for you. But if you're the one delivering the webinar, you're probably looking at, a day of work going into one, easy. So where am I going with this? Yep. So if your intention is with the webinars, let's say it's more around building your email list, or more around increasing the number of people that attend the webinar, or more about increasing the number of people who click through to your landing page about the webinar and things like that, then you're going to be watching your numbers. And what will happen is maybe you'll do 1, 2, 3 webinars and you'll notice that not many people are registering perhaps, or not many people are hitting the landing page, or not many people are commenting on your post about it or whatever. And so you're thinking, oh my gosh, is this worth it? Like, this is exhausting. I don't know that I can keep doing it. I hate doing webinars. And you start changing your language. And suddenly what's happening without you being aware of it is you've shifted the vibration from being one of hope and positivity and energy and well-meaning and things like that to, this is labor intensive. I don't like webinars. Webinars don't work for me. All stuff like that. And so your vibration shifts, and guess what? You're going to get what you get. You get what you put out. Okay, that's law of attraction, isn't it? I like attracts like. So if you're starting to say they're labor intensive, I don't like doing them, they're hard, they're uncomfortable, they're boring, you get nothing back, then you will get nothing back. You have to trust that things take time. And I think as an entrepreneur, it's a hard lesson to learn, because the business is an extension of your heart, soul, and mind, and you prioritize it, you value it. To you, it's really important, but it's not that important to everybody else. Okay, you have to understand that it's going to take time. There's a statistic that says you need 34 touch points with a client before they'll do anything with you. So what that means in reality is that person needs to see 34 times that you're somebody who runs webinars every fortnight. Like, I'm just using myself as an example here, before they start to realize, oh, that's right, Brooklyn does webinars every fortnight. I'll see what else is coming up on the webinar calendar over there. And so, yeah, that then feeds into a whole other podcast around visibility and people getting worried that their audience will feel spammed by promoting, but that's not true. If people are going to feel spammed, they'll just unfollow you, and that's okay. But what I'm trying to impress upon you here is that it does just take time. You're not going to have 34 touch points with a client in a 5-day period. That's going to take a little bit of time, and you need to build up a history. It's like, I think it was Gary Vee was saying that, I can't remember if it was his podcast or his YouTube, but he was doing it for like 3 or 5 years. Nobody was listening, nobody was watching, and he kept doing it like consistently. And then one day there was a tipping point, and boom, everything just happened. And then people started going back and listening to his early stuff. And now all his early stuff is making him money as an additional revenue stream, because it was all there all the time on YouTube. Okay, so persevere, because the universe will be listening. It just needs to coordinate things on an energetic level to make you be able to manifest consciously and intentionally that you're trying to create. Okay, all right. So another thing that happens is you need to just beware of jealousy. Okay. And this comes about because it's really popular too when you're in business and you're working on a goal and it's not happening for you, and then you see that it's happening for somebody else. It hurts. You gotta go, oh, like, how does that happen? She's not working as hard as I am. She's not doing all the things I am, but she's getting better traction, and people are more engaged with her stuff, and this really hurts. Ouch. So just beware of jealousy. A client that I worked with in the past had set the intention to manifest a new team member for her private practice. practice. So I love helping people recruit. I've got 4 clients that are just finishing their 90 days now, that have all been able to build their teams in 90 days. And before that, they were looking for team members for like one lady 6 months, one lady 18 months. And she just had the same ad and she just kept putting it on repeat. She just kept throwing more money at the same ad and sharing it in the same groups. And oh my gosh, anyway. So I have a special way that I help my clients build team. And anyway, so one of the people that I was working with had set the intention to manifest a new team member for her private practice. She was a psychologist. She was applying the tools and the techniques that we'd been discussing in our sessions, and she was checking in with me most days, and overall she was doing a really, really fantastic job. And I was so excited for her, and admittedly I could not wait to meet a new team member for her practice too. Now one day she sent me a message and immediately I knew she was upset about something. I could tell by the sad emoji with the single tear rolling down its cheek that she put at the end of the text message to me. So I rang her up and she spoke really in such a soft and gentle voice that I could barely hear what she was talking about. And then she began crying and blurted out that a colleague of hers, also a psychologist, had only just advertised for a new contractor and had hired one. So now the psychologist I was working with was upset, and I felt an immediate empathy for her, and I wanted to provide her with words to, I guess, give her peace of mind. And then the coach in me suddenly realised that actually this was good news that her colleague was recruiting successfully. When I looked at it through that lens, I said to her that I couldn't really understand why she'd be so upset that her colleague was able to hire someone. And she blurted words out down the phone, said things to me like, well, it's not fair, Brooklyn. How come she can get someone but I can't? I've been trying everything. I'm hopeless at hiring contractors. I'll never find anyone. Why is this happening to me? I could see she was really jealous, and she told me she was. When we discussed it, she agreed that she was. The thing about jealousy is that it sends out a message that you lack something. When you do that, what do you think is going to happen? The universe is going to send it right back to you. Okay, how could you deal with jealousy then? As it will come up for you most likely at some point on your journey as an entrepreneur. Recognize that the universe has heard what you want and it's showing you that your turn is coming. The very fact that what you want has shown up for somebody else, but in your reality, means that it's possible and it's absolutely able to happen for you too. You see, the universe is limitless, and it's limitless because it's energy, right? And energy is limitless. There's no beginning or end to energy. And so if something happens for somebody else, it's a sign that this can absolutely happen for you too, because you're no different. You're only different if you see yourself as distinct. Before I had a private practice where clients paid fees to see me, I spent nearly 20 years working for government rebates. Clients didn't pay me a cent from their own pocket. And that was just how I chose to operate my practice then. But one day I stumbled upon, this idea of turning my solo private practice into what I call a proper business, and charge fees. And, it was a real journey for me. Other psychologists were shocked that I wasn't charging fees and couldn't understand I was keeping the doors open. I was surprised, however, when people started suggesting that I do start charging fees. I nearly died on the inside. I said to myself, there's no way anyone would ever pay me for my services. And I'd say, I'll lose all of my clients if I begin to charge them a fee. Am I good enough to charge a fee? And things like that. So it really required a lot of internal work for me to realise what was going on. And what I realised was that I was hanging on to a belief that others were worthy and I was not, in a nutshell. So that's what happened. I was treated poorly by some colleagues and poorly by some practice managers and poorly by some people that came to the practice. And it was a massive fear that I wanted to overcome. And I wanted to remember it like it was yesterday when I announced that I was introducing a fee. It felt good to say out loud, and I also felt scared. I mean, how will everyone react? Will people be mad at me? And what happened was, I was working in the rebated clinic where people weren't paying. The practice manager told me then it wasn't fair to my clients to charge a fee. And then when clients came for appointments, they were always excused from having to pay the fee And then I further internalised the belief, well, yeah, if the person that owns this medical business says it's unfair of me to charge a fee and that psychology isn't worth charging a fee for, and excused clients who didn't pay it, it just internalised that, yeah, I really wasn't worth, a fee. I tried and I failed, and the world had given me the message that I feared the most. It was a really horrible feeling, and it didn't take too long before I reverted back to not charging fees while I was at that medical place. The other thing that happened at the same clinic there was that management there would process pays for contractors, myself included, and I never ever checked it. I just always trusted, I just always believed that I was getting the correct pay. I was so naive. Anyway, the fee that I would get was just sent straight to my bank account, and we didn't get pay slips or anything because we weren't employed. And then one day I thought to myself, I wonder what I'm getting paid for. And I asked the owner of the clinic if there was a way I could be provided with the details of which patients I'd been rewarded for consulting, so to speak. It took ages, and it seemed to me that the more management delayed giving me this information, the more determined I became to get it. And eventually they gave me a list of client names and the amount that I'd been paid. I went back to my room that I was consulting in, pulled up the diary on the computer so that I could cross-reference my sheet with my online calendar, and guess what? I had found not one, not two, not three, but multiple discrepancies. If you've ever done anything like painting or cleaning or tidying up, you'll know what I mean when I say it was just like when I thought I was through, there was another spot that needed my attention, and then another, and then another. This went on, and the result was that the management at that medical clinic had withheld over $18,000 of my pay in a 12-month period. I was in shock, so I had to check it and recheck it and recheck it, and then I got my accountant to check it for me, and then we hired an auditor to check it again. So I wanted to be so sure because this was huge to me, and I didn't want to say the wrong thing to somebody. I didn't want to cause any trouble. I didn't want a confrontational conflict, but I wanted my $18,000. So then what happened was I was feeling super angry and cheated, and I approached management at that clinic and I asked for my money. And they fluffed around for months. They kept avoiding me. It was like I was getting ghosted. I could see that they were reading my emails. And because on MailChimp, you can see when people have read your email. So I was able to see that they read my emails and they weren't responding. I was leaving voicemails and they weren't responding. And when I would bump into them at work, they'd fob me off. They'd tell me, make a time to meet with me. I'm just really busy and stuff like that, which made me more upset. Okay. What ended up happening was I became very persistent with the management of this medical clinic. I became like a dog with a bone. I was at them more days than not saying, where's my money, where's my money, where's my money, where's my money? And it got to a point where I started not liking going down to that medical clinic anymore. I started resenting going, and I liked working with the clients, of course, but the feel of the place, the magic had gone for me. I wasn't loving it anymore. It wasn't a high vibe for me anymore, no matter how much work I was doing. So anyway, despite all the fluffing around, they never, ever, ever gave it back to me. So yeah, that was like the icing on the cake for me, and that was what led to me actually taking the plunge and getting out. So it meant that I had to start my own practice, which I'd already been thinking of doing. This just brought it forward much more quickly than I'd anticipated, but everything happens for a reason, right? Suddenly I realized that because I had now internalized and had reinforced a view that I wasn't worthy of being paid, I started manifesting people in my new business that didn't want to pay me, and situations where I wasn't getting paid, and I had to stop. Opening the new practice was really challenging on so many levels because I was away from that evergreen flow of referrals that you get when you're just turning up to work in a bulk billing medical clinic. And in no time at all, I realized really quickly that I knew nothing about how to run an actual business. For all those years that I'd been just turning up at the medical clinic, I was deluding myself. I honestly thought I was running a private practice. I wasn't. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't marketing. I wasn't setting up a web page. I wasn't doing any of that. Literally, all I needed to do was just turn up at 8:30, go home at 6, and see, a lot of people in between. That was it. So yeah, it was a massive learning curve. And yeah, to be away from that evergreen flow of referrals. See, when you're working in a medical clinic, you've got a constant referral source because usually you're paying a percentage, and so are the doctors, to the owners of the practice of your pay. And so anyway, it's in everybody's best interest, the doctors, the practice owners and managers, and yours, if the doctors are giving you work. It keeps the work inside the clinic, blah, 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 blah. There's a whole strategy behind it. And so you never go short of a referral when you're in a bulk billing clinic. Okay, so yep. This realization hit me, and I realized that, while I thought that I was effective as a psychologist doing the direct client work, I realized I knew very, very little about business. I loved doing psychology, but I knew I needed to learn more. So guess what happened? To get to work and build my practice, I began marketing myself as being free to clients. Can you see what's happened here? I've taken that identity of not being worthy enough over to a brand new business that I was setting up. And then I got swamped. I was inundated with referrals really quickly. I got a waiting list in the space of a few weeks, and I hate waiting lists. They're not aligned with my vision or my value. I think if somebody has gone to the trouble of making an appointment with me, they've probably gone through a whole lot of steps. They've probably been feeling anxious or depressed for a long time before it's gotten to the point where, they can't handle it anymore. Then they've had to deal with that. And for some clients, that brings up feelings of guilt, shame, embarrassment, fear, not nice things. So then they have to go to the doctor and talk about their guilt, shame, fear, how they think life is meaningless or worthless, how they've lost their motivation, they can't do anything anymore, they don't want to socialise with their friends, they're not happy if they do, they're not happy if they don't. They have to do all of that. Then they have to go through a flipping questionnaire. It's, in my mind, in my opinion, not worth the paper it's written on. I ask them 10 questions all about, let's amplify your low vibration even more, and see, and rate your mood on a scale of 1 to 5 about, do you agree or strongly disagree with these statements? So as a client, you've got to go through it again. And then at the end of that consultation, the doctor's going to make a decision about whether or not you're lucky enough to get referred, because we know in Australia that it's some minimal percentage. I don't have the statistic on me, but I can find it. I think it was something like only 9% of people who go to their doctor in Australia asking for help for anxiety or depression actually get a referral to a psychologist, which is just ridiculous. Whole other conversation. They either get sent to online e-help, and then if they're still feeling bad in a few weeks and they've tried the online stuff, then they get more psychoeducation, they get given different online stuff, then it's go away, and then it's come back if you're still feeling bad, and then maybe we'll talk about some medication. And a lot of the time clients have to request a referral to see their doctor, and they're relying on the doctor to make that referral for them. So this is like more hoops that an already depressed or anxious person is jumping through. And then when they do get the referral, they've got to ring up, and that takes guts and courage, and they're probably at the very end of their, whatever, and they make the call. And then can you imagine being told, oh, yes, thank you for ringing up. Yes, we have a psychologist and she can see you in 3 months. I mean, WTF? How is that even ethical? I don't know. And then guess what's going to happen? Do you think that client's really going to stick around for 3 months? No, the client's never going to come back. The client's, that's not true. There's some clients will come back, but I think the majority are just going to, if they really want the help, they're going to go shopping around for somebody that has sooner availability, in which case different psychologists are now going to get the referral with somebody else's name on it. And anyway, that's what happens. So I think if somebody's gone and jumped through all of those hoops and been so brave and that tells me that they really, really want the help. I don't want to be putting them on a wait list or anything like that. So anyway, I was getting really upset because I was advertising myself as being free to clients. I got a wait list really quickly that was not aligned with me. This whole waitlist business, I think it's a load of malarkey. I was renting a really little room in a serviced apartment building on the Mornington Peninsula. I had a really small desk and 3 chairs with a little 2-drawer filing cabinet and a very tiny little coffee table. I ended up getting chairs for that room that are called ghost chairs. They're clear because when I put normal chairs in, it just felt like there was no space in my little office. So I got ghost chairs. It was honestly the office the size of a really small bathroom. That's putting it kindly. While I'd be in a therapy session, though, my phone would be ringing and ringing and ringing. Although I would mute the ringer, the little red light that flashed to notify me that a call was there or that a message was on my voicemail would light the room up like a disco. My room would just start strobing red. It was a huge distraction, even when I tried to cover it up. But it wasn't the most annoying thing. The most annoying thing was I was so busy, I was in back-to-back sessions, which was great from one perspective, but it also meant that I wasn't able to return calls during business hours to clients, and then things would just start stacking up. When I did get to my voicemails, it would take me almost an hour or more. Messages would begin really nice and politely, but then callers would leave increasingly angry messages with me because I was annoyed that I hadn't picked up their call from the morning. So they'd call me like 2, 3, 4 times a day and then start calling me first thing in the morning the next day. And then the calls became abusive and highly aggressive. And I used to leave the office exhausted and in tears and wonder why I ever left the, in inverted commas, security of the Bulk Medical Clinic. So I went on this journey, as you do. It becomes like a roller coaster. You think it's going to be a great idea, and then it kind of all goes pear-shaped pretty quickly. One day, another psychologist mentioned to me that they were using something that I hadn't heard of before. It's called virtual reception. So I listened, and she explained to me what virtual admin does. I thought it sounded great, but I didn't know if I could afford it because I was barely making enough money to cover the expenses associated with renting a space outside of a medical clinic and now doing marketing and this, that, and the other. But anyway, sitting in the office the next day, I was really acutely aware of that red light illuminating every nook and cranny in the suite, and I couldn't handle it anymore. And then I thought to myself, you blow it, I'm just going to take the plunge, I'm going to do it. And so the next day it all happened. All my calls were now getting diverted to somewhere else, a different business, and they were now handling my admin for me. And it was really just so weird for me to be sitting in that consulting room and not hearing the phone ring and not getting the strobing effect of the red light. It was then that I began to realise that maybe I could after all run a business, and maybe I could after all start charging a fee. Because now I felt like I had more valid reasons to justify starting a fee, which I know now is not the right way to be thinking about things. But it was just an idea at that stage, but it was a seed that had been planted. A month or so later, while I was at a different workshop for my professional development, a trainer asked everyone there to tell them what their hourly rate was, and she started writing it down on the whiteboard. One by one, everybody went around the room and started saying out loud what their hourly rate was in these great big clear voices. I couldn't believe what I was seeing and hearing. People were saying things like $170, $185, $145, $210. When it was my turn, I felt sick. I thought maybe I should just make up a number, but I didn't. And I go, oh, my number is 84. And people turned around. I was sitting in the back row and people turned around and looked at me and they were like, 84? How on earth are you paying your bills on 84? Because 84 was the rebate from the government because I wasn't charging anybody, right? I felt like in that moment, for me, I just felt so degraded and so embarrassed, and it was really horrible. I felt like I was really under the microscope. Part of me wanted to know how everybody else was doing it and, in inverted commas, getting away with it. See what my mind was saying to me? I had an internal dialogue that was aligned with this blueprint of, you must be taking money from people. How are you getting away with taking money from people? That all has a really negative connotation. That came from me. That came from my experience and my mindset. Over the break, I started talking with other people about charging fees. And, I then said, well, I couldn't charge fees in my area because I'm in a low socioeconomic area. And then a bunch of other psychologists started saying to me, but I'm in your area and I'm charging $200. I thought, what? They just took that argument away that I've been holding on to justify not charging. And they had really successful practices. So it was encouraging because in a way it was showing me it was possible, but at the same time it was scaring the heck out of me to hear. Anyway, all of this talk and commotion got me really thinking more about my beliefs, and I started to feel then that I needed to do more of the internal work. And that's when this whole idea of my tagline for my business is, business success from the inside out. And it comes from my experience, because when I say business success from the inside out, I'm saying you're going to get what you believe. And I was believing bad things about money in business. I was thinking I wasn't worth it. I'd had experiences that reinforced my idea that I wasn't worth it. I felt like it was greedy to take money off people. I'd had experiences where I'd been told it was greedy to take money off people. So anyway, my whole mindset was geared around thoughts like that, and they weren't helping me in my business. And so then it became a journey of processing a whole lot of stuff, and it was really hard. And although I started doing that work 5 years ago or so, I think it's you're always going to be working on it to some point. The thing that really helped me so much was doing the internal work that came along with or the study I was doing about manifestation as well, because I guess although to somebody who doesn't know much about manifesting, the best way I could explain it is there's probably a crossover between approaches like cognitive behavior therapy, person-centered therapy, soul psychology, positive psychology, to probably about 90% of everything that you do with manifesting. There's no magic trick. It's just the way that you look at things. So it really got me to reassess. Anyway, so I made the decision, and as you know from previous episodes, I lost about, I think I've still got the spreadsheet somewhere, but I think it was 75% of my referrers bailed. They just went AWOL, didn't want to refer to my practice anymore. And I took it personally because I was still learning about business mindset. So, and at that stage, I was seeing that I was the business, I was my brand. So, I took it really personally, took it really hard. It was not a nice experience for a little while there. Looking back now, if I lost 75% of referrers, I would just say, that's okay. I want to thank them for all the work that they've sent me in the past. And I know now that I'm no longer able to serve their clients, or we're no longer a good match for each other. And I was blessed at the time, but now I'm creating space to welcome in different people that I'm, here to work with, or something like that. Anyway, so I went through this whole mindset stuff, and I just thought to myself, come on, it's all right, you're going to get through it. And I decided to look at good outcomes that I've been getting with clients. And I use that really as a way of objectively, for my own mind, showing myself that I was good at therapy. I wanted to show myself that I was able to help clients get outcomes. I wanted to show myself that I had good working knowledge and things like that. So I started to look for objective things that would validate this new identity I was trying to embody. I got out all my diplomas and stuff like that and started looking at them, just trying to reinforce in my mind that, I'm okay, I'm worthy, stuff like this. In a matter of about 3 months, I went from having a very empty diary to being full up again, and I did start charging money. And it's really important that you are aware of this, because what happened was that became the pivot point, though I didn't realize it at the time. So I started charging $15 to clients per session. It was a bit of a rough transition, but what I learned was that there were people out there who were happy to pay me $15. And then what happened was, over time, I made incremental increases to my fees of like $5 here and there. And people were still coming and they were still attending. And then I got even more new referrals and things like that. And then that became my new reality. I am worth it. The work that I do is worth it. I had to shift my beliefs around money as well, and say to myself, well, it's not greedy if you want money. I knew that came from my, excuse me for 1 second, just got a cough. I knew that came from my mindset growing up, because I grew up with no money. And so my idea was, if you had money, you must be horrible and mean and greedy, and why aren't you sharing it with people? So I needed to change all of that. And it was really so good because then I was able to say, well, hang on, no, as a business owner, if I create more cash flow into the business, I can do other things. And one of the things I did was got a new premises. One of the things I did was got new team members and scaled the business. One of the things I did was got a website. One of the things I did was philanthropy. So on my website, even today, we have a donate section. So people in the community can use a contact form and nominate somebody to get money from. So each week we donate money to somebody that needs it in the community. So it allows you to do all those sorts of things. So the shift in my mindset allowed me to see opportunity. And so I was sharing all of this story because I wanted you to see from my experience that what I was doing was, I had created that whole situation with the money in the beginning by focusing a lot on living from circumstance and living from a place of limiting belief. Back then, I wasn't as well versed in law of attraction, but see now it's glaringly obvious that what I was doing was I was actively manifesting all the drama with the money that I experienced as a result of my views around money at the time. But now I understand how law of attraction works. I'm feeling abundantly more confident with my fees and being paid, because I absolutely know that the work I do and how I help is more than worth it. And I respect myself more now. I value my work more now. And now I attract clients that respect me and value me and my work too. I don't need to see 10 people every day to cover my expenses anymore. Now I get to see 4 people a day for maybe 3 or 4 days a week, and still make really good money. So maybe you've had a time in your life where your limiting beliefs created a reality for you that you didn't want either. Or maybe you're starting your business now and you want to have a business that feels good. And this is where that whole alignment concept comes into it. When I was making the shift from not charging money to charging money, it did not feel aligned with me because of my mindset. Charging people money didn't match up with what I believed about charging money. I was out of alignment. And so what happened was a real mess, a real messy lesson, a real disaster, a real yucky experience. Okay? It was out of alignment. Now, when I say, well, for coaching, it's $4.97 an hour. So I say, well, I'm quite comfortable with $4.97 an hour. I'm totally fine with that because I've shifted my mindset. You can do it too. It really is around making your offer in your business. So your offer is not your webinar. Like, that's not your offer. Your webinar is a vehicle that you're using to help somebody. Okay, the offer is the result that person's going to get. So, for example, with a webinar that I'm running this week on how to turn over your first 100,000 in your business as a solo practitioner, the offer there is not the webinar. People aren't interested in a flipping webinar. They're interested in, how can this help me? They're interested in, I'm at point A and I want to get to point B. How's this going to help me? And so the offer is, I'm going to help you like this, and this is what's going to become available to you after that. Okay, and that feels really good to me to deliver that webinar because it's in alignment with my values around helping other women in business. Okay, and then with my I don't pitch at the end of my webinars. I did on the last one because I had feedback from the first one that I did saying people didn't know who I was and they wanted to know more information and they wanted to find out more about my coaching programs and how I help them. Could I include it in the next one? So I did. But this one coming up doesn't have any pitching, and nor will future ones unless people ask for more information. So when I'm sharing, like last week when I was sharing information about who I help and how I help them and what my fees are and, for my 90-day program. So my 90-day program is like an entry-level program. I've got free content people can get help with, like the podcasts, newsletters, stuff like that. I've got a Facebook group people are welcome to jump into if they want. People can get free help. But then the next entry point up from there is a 90-day program. It's $3,500 for 90 days. And then after that, people go on to one-to-one and VIP, which is a lot more expensive. So you have to find fees that are going to align with your mindset, but you've got to be aware of what mindset you're bringing to the game of business. If you're bringing a mindset of lack, scarcity, it's being greedy to ask for money, you're a mean person if you ask for money, you can't feel comfortable asking for money, all of that, you're going to go through a big mess like I did. So the success of your business is determined by your mind, by your perspective, by your view about things. That's why we say it's business success from the inside out. And so now that's what I help people with. So maybe you have had a time in your life where you can see now, you can recognize now that something happened because of a belief that you had about it at the time. You were experiencing beliefs that were perhaps limiting and that were creating a reality in your business that you didn't want. The good thing is, though, that when you change your beliefs, you can change your world. You can change your beliefs and you can change how you show up for your clients. You can change your beliefs and you can change how money shows up in your business. You can change your beliefs and you can change how you attract clients and what types of clients you're attracting. You can change your beliefs and change your offer. You can change your belief and change your messaging. Okay, and when you're doing that, you're bringing things into more intentional alignment, more conscious alignment. Okay, it comes kind of back to that. I talk about it a bit. The Be Do Have model by Zig Ziglar. You have to think to yourself, what's the outcome that I want? Operate from the end point and reverse engineer it back. Okay, so if I want to make this much money in my business this year, how am I going to do that? Who do I have to be, right? Meaning, what kind of personality do you have to be the owner of the practice that makes that kind of money? What would that personality think about money? What would that personality say about money? What would that personality believe about money? And then you want to step it back again and look at the action steps, like the do. Okay, what does that person do that is aligned with their beliefs around money and that's going to generate the money? A Be Do Have. Okay. So some strategies that you might find helpful would be perhaps when it comes to shifting your vibration, it's got to start with vibration before you go looking at your beliefs, okay? You're not going to get a good outcome trying to work through limiting beliefs, which is hard graft, if you're feeling in a low mood to begin with. So if you're feeling angry that nobody's enrolling, if you're feeling scared witless about the lack of cash flow and how you're going to pay your bills, that's not the space that you want to be trying to work on your limiting beliefs in. That's why we say you have to start by raising your vibration. Okay, you've got to get yourself to a mindset where you're feeling more open, where you're feeling ready to allow, where you're feeling coachable, let's say, where you're feeling like you're ready to hear a new perspective. So raise your vibration, step number one. Number two, identify your mindset around whatever challenge it is that you're having in your business, and be honest with yourself. Nobody's ever going to see what you write down, because I think writing things down is really powerful. Don't just sit there and contemplate while you think things. Get out a pen and paper and write down what you believe about the challenge that you're having in your business, whether it's money or finding clients, and really be objective when you've written out those beliefs. Step back, even close the book and come back to it the next day with a fresh set of eyes and really objectively look at the mindset. Then I want you to, say to yourself, okay, is there anything glaringly obvious out here that needs my attention? If I change one of these beliefs, could I then change an outcome? The answer is yes. Okay. So start looking at how you might want to work through changing one of those beliefs. The third step is to, of course, properly appreciate and honor the fact that timing plays a role. It plays a role in consciously and intentionally creating the outcome that you want. And it takes time, okay? It's going to take time to build your email list. It's going to take time to build brand awareness. You can't just go hard at it for a month and then get upset because you're not getting the traction. It's going to take time. And the sooner you can wrap your head around the fact that it's going to take time and you can accept that, the easier you're going to make life and business for yourself. And then when it comes to feelings of jealousy and you're looking at other people, social media is a horrible one for this, isn't it? People tend to, a lot of the time, just post their best stuff. And it's human nature, I think, to look over at what other people are doing and wonder why they're having those outcomes and we're not. And you can feel a little bit envious or a little bit jealous. But how about next time you become aware that you're feeling like that? How about instead you say to yourself, wow, if she can do it, I can do it. And instead of saying, why is it happening for her? Why isn't it happening for me? And those sorts of why isn't it questions are going to put you on a downward spiral and lower your vibration, and you're just going to be in a foul mood. Instead of asking, why isn't it, why isn't it, why isn't it? Say to yourself, how can I have that too? Right? How did she do that? Wow, I've got to find out. I've got to know. Maybe I can ask her, how can I find out actually? Can I send her a private message and ask her, yeah, wow, that's amazing. How did you do it? I want to do that too. Do you teach this? Can you help me with that? Asking different questions is going to get you different answers, is going to get you different outcomes, helps you level up your business, okay? Plus, it's really so nice when people come to you and they say, I've seen your journey, I've seen what you've done, how did you do that? And I think as somebody who's been on the receiving end of those messages, it's great because it gives you another chance to help somebody, and that's a real buzz for many of us. It's why we get into our work. And so if you're on the fence about asking someone how they did it, or asking someone how she achieved it, or how she got that result, or and you're nervous about that, please don't be, because people will always, in my experience, be very happy to help. And if they're not able to give you the exact help that you need, you ask them, hey, can you point me in the right direction of this, that, or the other? And they will. All right? So celebrate the wins that people in your circle are having, because it's the universe showing you that you can have those wins too. Okay? It's just a matter of you now needing to shift your thinking a little bit more around aligning your mindset and your actions in your business with the results that you really, really want, and doing it in a way that's consistent with your values. Okay? So that was today's episode, and on Wednesday next week, just let me have a quick look in my diary. So we've got our guest expert series at the moment. We are in February, aren't we? Okay, so Sabrina Runbeck is our guest on Wednesday. Really interesting lady. Is involved with heart surgeries and in the medical field, and also doing coaching. So you're absolutely going to want to hear from her. She's a brilliant lady who's got a really interesting angle to help women in business. So she's going to be providing you with a few insider tips and tools that you can use that are only going to be available to people who listen to the podcast. So if you haven't, I would suggest that you hit subscribe so you don't miss out. Thank you so much for listening. You're welcome to join the webinar on Thursday. The link will be in the comments if you're in the mood to generate 100K in your business as a solo practitioner this year. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. And remember, your business success comes from the inside out. Thanks, everybody. Bye. Thank you so much for listening today. I really hope that you enjoyed it and got a lot of value from it. Help me help others by sharing this podcast. And if you feel called to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, remember to let me know so that I can send you a very special thank you gift. Now go and build your dream business, and I will see you next time. Bye.